Hey guys, and welcome to my Fall of Everlife card review part 1. I'll be covering all the cards that were released recently. And yeah, I haven't really had all the time I would love to try these cards out. Every time I start building a deck, I get stuck in it, and then I've spent tons of time on one deck. I'm like, oh man, I have so many deck ideas and so many cards I want to try out. But I'm going to go through them because I have seen them being played against me, and I've played with some of the cards myself. And if I haven't seen a specific card, I can just kind of give a prediction of how I feel the card is going to fare in the world of Faeria, and what its power levels like, and will it see much play. So without further ado, let's get into the card review, and I'll tell you guys what I think. Alright guys, we're going to cover the neutral cards to kick things off. I do want to say something about the corrupt mechanic. So this is a new mechanic introduced into this first wave of the Fall of the Everlife. We've seen a lot of creatures with corrupt and being able to trigger this ability. It says here, does something the first time this creature moves onto an enemy land any turn after it is played. So take that into consideration, because I've been trying to create a mobility deck around the Hydra. It's like a blue-yellow deck, and one thing I didn't realize is you can't cheat corruption. You can't use a mobility trick to move a creature onto the land after you played it to trigger the corruption preemptively. So the creature needs to move onto a land after the turn it's played. And another thing to consider as well, if you do mobility a creature onto an enemy land the turn it's played, the next turn it still needs to move onto an enemy land itself before the corruption will trigger. So it will not trigger if it's just sat on an enemy land after it's been moved to the turn it's been played. So just a few things to consider that I discovered when I played with that mechanic throughout the week. So to kick things off, we have the Shadow Silk Fairy, probably one of my favourite cards from the set so far. I'm a big fan of fairies, but this card is just very flexible. It can pretty much fit into any deck that runs events if you want to find a way to draw those events from your deck. The nice thing about it with the corrupt mechanic, it does take a bit of setting up. Very powerful mechanic, but you do need your creature to be on board a turn. And as a 1/1 with protection, it's quite durable, but the 1 life does let it down a little bit, but with its powerful ability to draw 2 events, there's no surprise. It's also got flying, charge 2 and protection, so it can act as a double collector, which is also really good. It can trigger its corruption, or it can go into double collection, or as I've done, trigger the corruption first and then try and move it into a collection position. And that's one of the beautiful things about corrupt as a mechanic when it comes to flying creatures or highly mobile creatures. You have to kind of decide, do I go off to the ocean tiles and start collecting there, not trigger the corrupt ability, or do you go and get to the enemy land and get that benefit? So just a really solid creature for thinning the deck, a bit of card draw. You get your mobile creature as well. Like I said, it can become a collector. It does cost 4 wildlands, so that's the one thing to consider. It has a hefty wildland cost, not very high Faeria cost, which is always also very good for it. But yeah, I rate this card very highly. I think it can fit into a lot of decks. Any deck that really runs events, if you want to find ways to dig them out of your deck and get them to hand quickly. After you get those 4 special lands, Shadow Silk Fairy will do the job for you. So yeah, I'm really impressed with this card so far, and I've been playing it myself. Check out my Red Burn video that I posted recently. Alright, Lost Explorer. Now, I really want to like this card, and I haven't really tried it myself. Now, the one good thing about this card, straight up, free Faeria for a free. Good rate, good value. You're paying free Faeria for a solid amount of stats. It has 1 wildland cost, so it doesn't require a lot of special lands. A lot of decks could fit this in if they wanted. Corrupt. Draw a card and gain 1 Faeria. Now, I cannot see opponents letting this little explorer get its corrupt trigger off. And that's where I think the problem is. I feel this is an early game collector, which you don't really want to move towards your opponent's land because you want to harvest, but you do want to get that corrupt trigger. And as a 3/3, it's not that durable. I don't know, I'm on the fence with this one. I haven't really tried it out myself. I think it could be useful. Definitely, if you're getting rushed down or you're under a lot of pressure, you can set up a Lost Explorer. If you gain initiative back, and that can give you a bit of a resource boost. But as an early game card, it's okay. It's not a bad collector. But I don't know. I'm unsure about this card. Tell me what you guys think, because if you guys have played with it, by all means leave a comment. If any card I mention that you've played with that I haven't and you have some thoughts on it, I'd love to hear them in the comments. So Lost Explorer, on the fence about, not too sure yet. Blightblade Knight. This card is very good. Now I know a lot of community members have said they're not too sure about this. I've been playing this in Angry Red and Angry Red Rush. I've played a Rush and a mid-range variant. 4 Faeria for a 6/4? That's just incredible. It's literally like 1 life off a Steamforged Enforcer. I think this card's very good. It's going to find its place in Rush decks, just as a solid hitter. It does have the downfall, a damage dealt to this creature is also dealt to you. I had a situation when I was playing mid-red, where my opponent had a Verdant Force as a 9/11, and I had to use the Blightblade to clear it, but I still won. I was in control of the wells. My opponent never really had an opportunity to get down and hit me. So 6/4, I've always said like 6 is like a golden number in this game. 6 life is really solid, so 6 attack is a great way to challenge that. So I feel that Blightblade has a home in very fast mid-range decks, rush decks, but especially in the angry decks. I feel this card is quite strong. Deranged Monkey. Now, Deranged Monkey's interesting. I've had this used against me. Again, with rush decks. It's a beast as well, so it has some tribal synergies that could be unlocked in the next part of the Fall of Everlife, but it's just a 4 Faeria, 2 special lands, 4/6 in most cases, gift, empty all wells, they gain +1/+1 for each well emptied. So the idea is you're not going to be collecting as a rush player. So rush, maybe yellow rush does want to use this, a green and or a red rush might use this card. Not collecting off the wells, pay 4 Faeria, get a solid 4/6 out of it. Kind of in line with some of the other explorers we've seen, the Rainforest Explorer and Savannah Explorer. So yeah, it's just a 4/6 in most cases. I can't see mid-range or control decks using this. This is definitely a rush card, giving rush a more durable body. It costs 2 wild, so unlike Mace Man, you can't just slap it down like really early and start applying pressure. It's going to take some land setup. But yeah, I think it's okay. I'm not too sure if decks will use it. Maybe if there's some beast synergy, maybe in green somewhere, the Ranged Monkey will find a home. But I'd like to see some other cards from the other parts of the Fall of Everlife before I make my decision on this one. Imperial Trooper. Now this design is really, really interesting. 4 Faeria, 3 wildland, 4/4. Same stats as a Mace Man, same cost as a Mace Man, but also has that wildland cost. So you're going to have to get 3 special lands down. Corrupt. Gain control of this creature's land. So you can actually steal a land. Now, it's hard to really judge how powerful this is going to be. Is this going to be a rush card, where the player just tries to steal lands to gain some kind of positional advantages? It's going to be a mid-range card, where you're kind of fighting for the wells, and then you steal an opponent's land. Now, if you steal a land that you can use, obviously it's so much better. If you steal a land you can't use, it could work out if you run a lot of neutral cards, but some cases it's just going to be an extra land to work with. So this card, I feel is situational, has situational advantages. It can set up strong positional play, but I'm unsure. Again, like I said, I've never had a chance to see all these cards in action. Imperial Trooper is a card I haven't played with or haven't seen at all, so I'd like to experiment with this myself first before I give you guys a big thumbs up or a big thumbs down. But if I was to just give it an initial review, I'm not too sure. I don't think it's that strong yet, but hopefully someone will prove me wrong. Alright, so Lyra, Leia, Lady of Sorrows, 4 Faeria, 3 Wild, 3/4 with Death Touch, very good. Last word, summon a shimmering statue in Lyra's place. I think this card is really, really solid. It's just a solid card. 3 Wildlands, not too expensive, 4 Faeria, 3/4, decent stats for its cost. It has Death Touch, can kill pretty much anything. And it has that last word, summon a shimmering statue, which can be very useful. Defending its rush, holding a well, trying to set up lethal. Taunt structures are very solid in that respect. It also gains life as well. So it's a really good card. I think it can fit in any deck. I think even Rush could use this card if it wanted. It's got Death Touch, so it can deal with threats that are defending. That statue then could lock something down while your hasters are going in. Mid-range decks can use this to hold the wells. Control decks can use this to defend against aggression. Very flexible. I think it's a fantastic card, and I would definitely recommend it. Just trying it out in your decks and seeing if it has a home there. Alright, I would actually argue to say this is the best neutral card, if not one of the best cards we've had in a long time. A 5 Faeria, 2 Wild, 3/4. Bit understated for its cost, but it has fly-in charge too. It can collect off wells. It also has the corrupt mechanic, gained +2/+2. 5 Faeria for a 5/6 with fly-in charge too, if you can get it on your opponent's land. This is very powerful. Now, one of the great things that was pointed out in the community commentary about this card is it gives every color or every deck the option to have that fly-in charge to mobile creature. So yellow's not the only color now that has all these highly mobile flying creatures. You can now find a home for Imperial Drake Rider in any deck. It's just very strong. It's just very, very strong. You've got 2 kind of modes with this card. You can send it off the double collect over the ocean. You can apply pressure by making it move onto your opponent's land, or just threatening to move on your opponent's land and gaining that power up. Now, this card I feel will always be strongest in mobility colors, so yellow will probably still utilize this to its fullest strength because it has Flash Wind, it has the Origin Fanatic, so it can move around the board. But it's just nice that everyone gets access to this, and if you are making a mid-range deck, maybe even a rush deck, just consider this card. It's just really solid. I actually feel any archetype can use this. It's a very flexible neutral. I like it. I want neutral cards to have that flexibility, and Imperial Drake Rider, I would argue, one of the best cards in the set so far. Now, last but not least, with the neutral cards, we have the man himself, the guy who's been causing all the trouble in the Oversky, been messing around with the Tree of Everlife. We have Chaos Demented Overmind. 6 Faeria, 6 Wild, 6/6 Divine. Divine means it can't be targeted by abilities or events, so this card is very durable straight away. Corrupt. Drain 1 life from everything. Now, I haven't had the opportunity to play this yet and use its ability, but I had it used against me, and it started off as a 6/6. I was like, okay, this is not so bad. And then it moved on to my land, and it drained a life from myself, my orb, my opponent's orb, a couple of our creatures, even the Crystal Flower I had down. It drained a life from that, and it became a 12/12 Divine. And I was like, okay, how do I deal with this? And the answer was, I couldn't. So, a win condition. Chaos is definitely a win condition, which you can put down this kind of durable threat. It has the threat of just draining life from everything, even your own creatures, but that can benefit and power it up to this massive creature. Like I said, 12/12 with Divine. I had no way of dealing with that. That creature messed me up. I just scooped. I couldn't do anything about it. It was very, very strong. So yeah, I feel this is just a good win condition for any deck that uses a lot of lands. I think green-blue could use this. Maybe some other decks, like token decks, like a yellow-blue deck could use this. Has a lot of tokens. You drain tons and tons of life of all your tokens, and you have this big old win condition. So a big beater to finish the games off for you, Chaos Demented Overmind. I think it's very powerful, but will fit in very specific decks that can utilize its ability to its maximum. So that's going to wrap up the neutral cards. Let's move on to the green cards. Alright, I decided to add the blue to this as well, so I'm going to do green, blue, and I'll do red, yellow. We're going to start things off with the Haunted Willow. Now I'm going to tell you a story about Haunted Willow. I saw this card and I thought, this card is garbage. This card is bad. Like, it's a 7/1, Grand Shaker exists, Spirit Theft exists, lots of kind of removal exists. But then my stream opened my eyes to this card, and I see where it belongs. It belongs, well, I believe, in Green Rush. This is a Green Rush card, a 7/1, 2 Faeria. It's not even that expensive. Like, even if this gets Cypher's Wrath, it's a trade. It's not actually that bad. So I ruled this card out just by looking at its stats, but not looking so much at its cost and its purpose. So I see this as a Green Rush card. You get 7/1 down very early, very cheap as well. If it's not answered, that's just 7 damage going to the orb or clearing a threat that's just come down. So I feel this card is actually pretty good. In theory, in practice, is Green Rush in a state where Haunted Willow will be enough to make it viable? I don't know. I do need to test it. Now, I've played a lot of Green Rush in the past throughout the years. One of my favorite archetypes from a couple of years ago. So I'd like to give this a test. Maybe something I'll look at in the near future. But Haunted Willow, I think it's pretty decent, actually. I've been converted. Thank you, stream. You've shown me the ways of Haunted Willow. Alright, Neko Matter, another corrupt creature that costs 4 forests. It's a beast as well, so it could have potential beast synergies going into the future. It's a 4 Faeria, 4 forest, 3/5, taunt, corrupt, double this creature's attack. Now, one synergy that has been pointed out to me for this is the Gathering Enchant. So you can enchant this, make this a 5/5, move on to the corrupt, and it becomes a 10/5. That's one way you can power it. But even an Elderwood Embrace is not too bad. You know, that still bumps up to a 10 attack. So 1 power up, and the green cards generally have the 2 attack power ups. That's where, apart from Gift of Krakoa, that's the kind of traditional pump for green power up cards. So in most cases, I can see this either becoming a 6/5 for 4 Faeria, or maybe a 10/5, or 10/7, 10/9, depending on which power-up you decide to use. But yeah, I think it could be pretty solid. The thing that holds it back the most is the 4 forests, so it's not that easy to splash into an enchant deck because it's quite expensive. So maybe this is just a mono green card, and like I said, having that beast tribe basically means it has the option to tap into beast synergies in the future. I feel we need more cards. We need the next part of the expansion to really see where this card goes. But if you are going to test it, try it mono green. Maybe even try it out with the enchantment cards. Rotten Boar. So our ancient Boar, which has picked up in popularity in recent times, has his evil counterpart, the Rotten Boar. 5 Faeria, 1 forest, 2 wild, 5/4, so had its stats flipped. Dash 1, so it doesn't have dash 2. And you'll see why, because of the corrupt mechanic. Draw the top creature with 5 or more life in your deck and give it +2/+2. So just giving a power up there to a creature you can draw if you manage to get that corrupt mechanic off. Just keep in mind, if you do dash onto an enemy land, it will not trigger the corrupt. It's more to set up potential moves onto the enemy lands to trigger it, because it does not trigger corrupt on the turn it's played. So yeah, it's pretty interesting. I feel this has tons of potential actually in 5 life decks, like with Ancient Herald and stuff. You can build a lot around this card. It has a lot of potential, even if you don't run tons of 5 life creatures. Just being able to draw a creature with 5 life and give it that pump just might be enough. You know, getting like a Grove Guardian or a Verdant Force in mono green and just giving it another stat boost, and still getting a creature out of it. It's pretty solid. I really like this card. I think it has a lot of potential, and of course it has the Beast Tribe. So who knows what additional tools could help the Rotten Boar in the future. Alright, Flying Piranha. So when I saw this card, I was just like, meh, it's alright. I don't know, I don't see much potential in it. And I played against Xged, and Xged was using this, and it was actually really awkward to deal with. It just hid behind creatures, just lurking, waiting for them to die and getting that mobility with the Death Touch. I feel this card has a lot of potential. It's just, where do you find the room for it? Where can this card? Where does this card live? Where's its home? Green Blue could use it. I think I saw Xged use it very efficiently. It was actually I was very impressed with the way he used this card. So you want to hide it behind creatures. You want to force your opponent to take these trades, to take these clears, and enable the Flying Piranha to then maybe take out something bigger. So there's definitely lots of ways this card can be utilized. It can be utilized as a double collector. It has flying and jump. It can get Death Touch, so it can take out big threats. You could give it power-ups and just make it even scarier. It can survive clears on big threats, use its Death Touch to finish it off, and maybe take out another problem. So Flying Piranha, definitely a lot of potential. Xged opened my eyes to this card when I played against him in the week, so very good. I'm looking forward to seeing what this card is capable of. Monstrous Hydra, 6 Faeria, 3 Lake, 5/5 Corrupt. Summon a 2/1 Hydra head with haste in each adjacent land. They die at end of turn. Now, I've been building a deck around this, and it's been interesting. This is where I tried to cheat out the corruption ability with preemptive removal. I wanted to get these little hastes to do work, but yeah, I basically built a blue-yellow deck around mobility, so use stuff like Khalim's Training, use Flash Winds to move these Hydras when they become active onto opponents' lands, get those Hydra heads and start causing problems. Now, Monstrous Hydra, I believe, is quite a skill-intensive card because you have to really plan what you're going to do with your Hydra heads. And they have haste, and they can collect Faeria as well, so keep that in mind. I've used them as collectors, I've used them to push a bit of damage, I've used them as removal. It's a very flexible card overall with its corrupt ability. Now, I'm going to let you guys in a little secret, which I can't even confirm this yet. If you guys want to test it out, I'm going to try it again myself. Okay, so I had a Monstrous Hydra on an enemy land where I did this whole pre-move it to try and trigger the corrupt early, and I was like, oh, okay, it didn't actually work, but that was fine. So I was on my enemy land near my opponent's orb, and I had a Mistral Guide in between the wells. I moved my Monstrous Hydra next to my Mistral Guide, and then when it spawned the corrupt, it summoned 2/1 Hydras on ocean tiles with flying. Don't know if that's working as intended, but it did that. And, you know, the silly thing is, that was the first time I triggered the corrupt ability. So I just thought that was how it worked. In my brain, I was just like, oh, they get flying, that's pretty cool, and they summon on ocean tiles. And then the next time I used it, I didn't have the Mistral Guide next to it, and it didn't work. Like, the flying, I was just like, huh. And I couldn't remember for a while, like, how did that happen? I didn't piece the two together. And then I had to think about it. I was like, Mistral Guide. So, I don't know if that's working as intended, if that was just a bug, but check it out. Mistral Guide with Monstrous Hydra, potential synergies there for summoning additional 2/1 Hydra heads with flying. It could work out, who knows. But Monstrous Hydra has been a lot of fun for me. I like this card a lot. Feels like a card you build around. This is why I've built this yellow package into it, to give it a lot of mobility. But yeah, I'm pretty excited for this card. I'm going to continue testing that. And this is actually the deck I'll be playing in my next episode of Will It Work, which you'll see very soon. So I hope you guys are looking forward to it. Reign of Fish. Okay. I've been staying away from this card, mainly because, if you guys remember, I have a bit of history with Ruby Fish. You know, I made the fish control. You know, I had this whole week when I was obsessed with Gabriel Noble and Ruby Fishes, and the Illusion of Grandeur, and I've been staying away because I do want to try it out again, but you know, it's going to take a bit of deck building. It's going to take a bit of time and figuring out where we stand in the metagame with the current card pool. But Ring of Fish, 6 Faeria, 2 Wild, 4 Lake. Summon 6 Ruby Fish in random spaces. Each fish that hits a land deals 1 damage to adjacent enemies. Each fish that hits the water or a lake is probably just going to stay there and chill. Summons a lot of harvesters, can do a little bit of damage. It's a bit too high variance for me, but if you're playing the Illusion of Grandeur, I mean, that's basically 6 Faeria, gain 6/6 on your Illusion of Grandeur, gain a few harvesters, potentially deal some damage as well. So, with the Illusion of Grandeur, I think it has a lot of potential. But again, like, I haven't really explored this yet. There's so many decks I want to try. I have so many ideas. But this will definitely be showing up in the future in Will It Work. Can we get Ruby Fish back on the map? Can we get the Noble back into the meta? We'll find out. I'm not going to make a call on this. You guys can find out when I make the deck. So that wraps up the green and blue. Let's move on to the red and yellow. Alright, on to our next selection of cards, Spite Sprite. Part of the red pool of cards are 1 Faeria, 1 Mountain, 2/1 Last Words, deal 2 damage to yourself. I've been playing with this card a lot. I think it's really good. I actually think it's very, very good in red. It's a 1 Faeria 2/1. That some have said it's just an extra attack on a farm boy. Yeah, but it's a 2 attack creature. It has more attack than life. It triggers Shedding Pest. It triggers the Firebringer. It triggers Hate Seed. It has a lot of synergy with the Angry archetype, and it only costs 1 Faeria, and it's a 2/1. You know, combo removal, you know, red has loads of damage-based removal. Combo a bit of removal with this, you can take quite a bit. And it's proved to be really good. I have been playing with this card a lot in both Red Rush and Red Mid, using the Angry archetype. And I rate this card highly. I think it's very, very strong. If you're in the double collection spot and you don't want to set up an axe, you have 3 Faeria, you can set up an axe grinder, or you can set up a sprite. Pay 1 Faeria, set up the sprite, save the Faeria for next turn. You know, just 1 Faeria, 2/1 Fred. It's just a cheap way of getting back onto board as a rush player once your board has been answered. Just a very good card, guys. It's just solid. Great synergy with a pre-existing archetype. It has 2 attack as well, so it can challenge quite a few creatures. Outland Rangers, Horse Masters, to name a few. I think it's very good. If you're looking to go into the Angry archetype in red, definitely check this card out. Baldurian Evil Archsmith. Now, I have been using this, as you guys know. It's probably not as it's intended to be used. But basically, this is just a mono-red finisher. 5 Faeria, 5 Mountain, 5/5 Protection, Corrupt, add a Hammer of Destruction to your hand. Now, damage from hand is incredibly powerful in Faeria. And being able to get a 5 damage to hand off this Corrupt ability just sets up a win condition or potential removal. Baldurian is also a very durable creature with protection, and he's a 5/5, so he's pretty solid stats. He's not 6 life, he's not 6 attack, so I feel like it's pretty balanced in that way. They haven't pushed it one way or the other. It's kind of slap in the middle, and this definitely pays balance to the protection it has, but also getting that Hammer of Destruction. But yeah, just a finisher for red now. Red can finish the game from hand without relying on Flame Burst. Hammer of Destruction, going to be a great tool to close out those matches. And like I said, just also a solid creature, and it costs a lot of land, so you do have to build towards it. It's not just like a 2 mountain, get a Hammer of Destruction to hand. You do have to invest into those mountains, so it will demand some build around. And this will move on to our next card, a bit more build around as well. At 5 mountains we have Havoc, a 5 Faeria, deal 9 damage to an enemy structure or creature. I was talking about this a lot in my last video with the mono red events, and yeah, it's great. 9 damage. Pay 5 Faeria, kill a guy in most cases. There will be creatures you obviously can't target because of Divine, or creatures that are just a bit too out of reach. But this actually gives mono red a removal tool which has a lot of reach. It has a lot of targets it can clear, and if you did watch my red events video, I did just use this as 5 Faeria killer guy. Very good. So if you're playing mono red and wanting to build towards those mountains, definitely consider this card. It's just good solid removal. I'm a big fan of it. Alright, probably the most controversial card of the set so far, the Spirit Theft. One Faeria event that costs 3 deserts. And drain 1 life from an enemy creature. So you gain 1 life. Deal 1 damage. If you kill it, add a copy of it to your hand, it becomes wild. Now, I have very mixed feelings about this card. Now, I like the idea of it. I like the idea that you can kill something and you can gain it as a creature you can use. I like that, being able to steal an opponent's creature. I think that's pretty cool. But my problem with this card is the whole... There's just a lot of 1 life targets you just never want stolen. Aurora, Bomb Slinger. Like, those 2 alone are very, very powerful cards that can be utilized by a yellow player. So yeah, I think this card is incredibly powerful. At 1 Faeria, it's kind of ridiculous. I would like to see this have a Faeria increase personally. But yeah, it's very strong. You can steal your opponent's creatures and use them. Steal anything really that doesn't have Divine, as long as you can finish it off with the Spirit Theft. Aurora and Bomb Slinger are 2 that come to mind, which is just a clean kill. And you gain those cards as wild as a yellow player? That's crazy. So yeah, I've used this card a bit, and the Bomb Slingers, I gained 2 Bomb Slingers from my opponent. I was just like, wow, I have Bomb Slinger now, and I'm a yellow player. So this card, very powerful. Keep an eye on it. I feel this card is gonna maybe shape the meta quite a bit, and hopefully not dictate to us what we can and cannot play, which like Grime Shaker did when it was at 2 lands. So let's keep an eye on this card. We'll see how it does. Very powerful. Probably one of the best cards for the set so far, along with the Drake Rider. Demonic Salmon. Now, when I saw this card, I was just like, oh no, Yellow Rush have more tools. But I haven't seen it being played much. Some argue actually it's just a worse Flash Salmon in some cases. But yeah, 2 Faeria, 2 Desert, 1/1, Flying, Haste, Charge 2, can't Harvest Faeria. Whenever this attack's got, it gains +1/+1. So it's 2 Faeria for a 2/2. That's basically what you're paying. 2 Faeria for 1 damage, become a 2/2. See if it survives long enough to get another hit, deal 2 damage, become a 3/3. I don't know how good this card is. I kind of feel like Follower is just better. I don't know, it's just... Follower is a 1 Faeria, deal 2 damage. And now in Yellow Rush, you're just trying to smoke, right? You're just trying to deal that damage. Maybe in a slower kind of Rush deck, I don't know. It's kind of strange. It's an interesting card. It's a card when I first saw it, I thought, oh no, this card's just going to snowball out of control. But the more I thought about it, I was just like, well, it does only deal 1 damage, and then it's just a 2/2. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not entirely sold on Demonic Salmon yet. I haven't played any Yellow Rush. So you guys, if you have any thoughts on this card, obviously just leave a comment below. I'd like to hear what you think. Alright, to wrap up this part 1 of the Fall of the Everlife review, we have Solemn. A 7 Faeria, 4 Deserts, 7/7, Flying, Divine, Corrupt, Destroy a Faeria well. Incredibly strong ability. A very unique ability that has never been in Faeria before. You can destroy an opponent's well. Now, my thoughts on this card is it's a good finisher. It's flying, it's got Divine, a bit like Chaos. It's a 7/7, good stats as well. Kind of lines up with Colossus. Colossus maybe a little bit better and quicker, but we don't know yet. It very much depends on how influential the Corrupt ability is. Destroy a Faeria well. Now, I've seen many games in competitive Faeria in my time where one player has been bullied into a corner. And it's usually green. It's usually been green who's been bullied. And they've been bullied into a corner of the board, and the other players just harvesting the free wells around it and just kind of forcing the opponent to kind of defend that well, starve them out, not letting them push past. But imagine if you could destroy that well. I feel like it's a way to finish a game. If you can play like a yellow control deck and bully your opponent into that one corner, like I said, use Solemn, destroy that well, and then just finish them off. Yellow control traditionally is a resource starving deck. Its whole purpose is to starve your opponent of resources and then finish them off once they can't play anything anymore. And I think Solemn is definitely designed around yellow control. This is where I see the card living. It very much, like I said, just very much depends on how powerful the corrupt ability is, because that's a flying 7/7 with Divine. I think it's pretty solid. You know, it's probably going to get hit where it needs to, just because the Divine keyword is going to protect it from removal. But is it better than Colossus? Windstorm Colossus is a faster, more mobile creature with the same stat line. So very much depends on how relevant the Divine's going to be. Very much depends on how relevant the Corrupt is going to be. But yeah, yellow control is definitely on my radar for building. Solemn is going to be a key part of that strategy of locking them into one corner. Very excited to try this card out. But that does conclude my review of part 1 of Fall of the Everlife. And there we have it. That's my review of the Fall of Everlife cards. Part 1. We have more cards coming in the future. And most of this is kind of an initial review from just kind of reading the cards and just kind of figuring out where they stand in the world of Faeria. But I have tried out a lot of different cards. Like I said, I have a lot of deck ideas. I usually just get stuck into one. I do need to kind of branch out a bit more so I can try more cards. But overall, I'm just very happy. You know, I've had a lot of fun playing the Hydra deck that I've just made. I've been playing Angry Red. It was more so the Heart of Farm battle chests, but it was pretty cool. Like I like the sprite a lot. And we also have my Red Events deck, which I've been playing. I do want to try so many other decks, and I will get around to it. I did the Red Events because I just wanted to get to God, and I wanted to test the power level of it. But I will be trying more interesting decks going into next week, and of course in the next episode of Will It Work? If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already, drop a subscribe to keep up to date when our content goes live. Be sure to leave some comments as well. I want to know what you guys think of part 1 of Fall of Everlife, and you know, what cards does stand out to you? Do you feel like any of my opinions do you not agree with them? Now, this is an opinion piece at the end of the day, so if you don't agree with some of my thoughts on these cards, just let me know. Just tell me why, though. Like, why is Demonic Salmon overpowered, or why is Solemn garbage? You know, just let me know, guys. I'm very interested to see what you think of the first part of the Fall of Everlife. So until next time, guys, take care, and I hope you enjoyed my card review.